You know, like have it split it for breakfast tomorrow. I opened it up and toast it. So you can put it over there with this stuff. It still has a little warmth in it.
Yeah. It wasn't such a warm place.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brother Shankar. Huh.
You have something to drink?
I do, thank you.
You need anything else?
I can't think of a thing. Oh, you know what? Are you still in there, Jyoti?
Yeah.
Could you bring me my phone?
Yeah.
It's just on the dryer, I think.
Yeah.
Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Sami.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Glad to have you with us.
Oh, thank you very much. So glad to be here.
I wonder why.
Thank you, Brother Shankara, for all that you do. Thank you
Well,
very much.
you're most welcome, dear. It is a joy, and it is a great privilege, as you know.
Yeah. You're a magnet for our little community here, and I am very, not always present, but glad to be here when I can.
I think I think that can be said in various ways of all of us, that we're not always present.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is the great secret.
Yeah, and present in all sense.
To finally get to the point where we're always present.
Yeah, that's the goal. Hopefully we do it before we.
Yes. So this morning we're going to be taking up Swami Prabhavananda's talk, The Problem of Evil, which was given many times over the years at the Hollywood Center. And his disciple Nalini went through all of the transcriptions of the talk and selected the very best of the various times that he'd given this talk. And so what we have is just Swami Prabhavananda's The Problem of Evil in its most expansive and excellent fashion. Nalini, we all owe a great deal of gratitude to Nalini for the hours and hours and hours that she spent doing this. She did indeed. Now, are you all seeing the altar behind, or are you just seeing a picture of me?
I think it's just the picture of you. but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm only seeing your picture,
Yeah.
Brother Shankar. This
Let
is
me just
Eva.
see what we can do about that. I
Yeah.
thought that might be the case. Hang on.
Yes.
And I can see my philosopher guru, Danielle. Hi, Danielle.
Start video. No, there we
Hi,
are.
Sally.
Now we can see you. Yes.
Very good. Hello there, Danielle.
Hi, brother.
Okay. And the altar shows clearly behind, does it?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
We
Yes.
can see
Yes.
Sri Ramakrishna's picture at the top and all.
Yes.
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 Okay, very good, very good. Well, we'll wait just a couple of minutes longer. We usually wait till a couple of minutes after the hour before we actually start so that people get a chance to join.
Our friend Peter is supposed to join us.
Yeah.
Peter
Hopefully.
Kaur? Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. I think Balakrishna said he wanted to chime in. Cindy said she's going to be here. So we'll let us see who else is here. Balakrishna is indeed with us. Excellent.
Brother Shankara, I am here.
Yes, I see your name.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And I see that South Georgia is represented. Catherine's there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello there, dear.
Brother Shankar, somehow I'm not able to see my picture there on the top. I don't know why, but I'll work on
I
it.
don't know why either. Have you got
Yes.
your video turned on?
Yeah, it's, yes, it is.
Well, I see Justine has joined us also. Wonderful.
Do you see it? I don't see it. Huh. I don't see your picture either. Suddenly I lost you. Oh, there it is. Okay, I see you now. But I don't see myself, so it's okay. At least I'm here.
Well, we hear you. I see your name on the
Exactly.
screen.
I know. I somehow lost my picture. I don't know. I need to work on that. I'm still understanding Zoom.
Well, aren't we all?
So,
If my chair's a little squeaky, so if it gets annoying and I keep popping up on the screen, just tell me and I'll mute myself.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We'll let you know. Okay, we're gonna wait just until 11:02, and then we'll kick it off.
I know the Zoom thing's not as good as being in person, but one thing
Yeah.
it does, it opens it up for people who like me who live in Florida. I don't have to travel all the way to Atlanta.
Right, and
Yeah.
Catherine and Jim Garvine, they live in South Georgia, and they're able to join us. So it's wonderful. It really is quite inspiring.
Yeah, there are
They
some
were-
positives, but they're, you got to look for them.
Okay, well, here we go.
okay.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the divine beings support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and all beings everywhere. So as I said, we're taking up from the book compiled of Swami Prabhavananda's talks called Realizing God. We're taking up his talk, The Problem of Evil. The problem of evil is central to every religion and philosophy and to every individual. To quote the philosopher Kapila, the supreme purpose of life is the complete cessation of suffering and misery. Mark the words complete cessation. Yes, suffering comes, misery comes, and we overcome them. But they arise again. So the supreme purpose is not just a temporary overcoming, but a complete cessation of suffering and misery. It can be pointed out that the great teachers, a Kapila or a Christ, include so-called happiness in the category of suffering. Now let's just dilate on that a moment. Anything that comes and goes, anything that can be lesser or greater, anything that is within the realm of duality is, according to these philosophers and great teachers, falls in the category of suffering. And if you want a detailed explanation of this, you'll find it in Swami Prabhavananda's How to Know God, which is his translation and commentary on the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. Patanjali discusses this in detail. So I won't say any more about it, but this is what's meant by so-called happiness is in the category of suffering. Let me give you an example. The other day, I received a letter from a young Hindu girl who is happily married. Both husband and wife are graduates of American universities, and they both have good jobs. They have no lack or want in the worldly sense, and they have a little baby. But she writes, Swami, I have everything that makes for happiness in the world, but I am not happy. How can I find peace? How can I find happiness? There is the illustration of the great Buddha. He had everything that the world could offer, but he found suffering and misery in the three woes of mankind: old age, disease, and death. I may point out that every religion, every great teacher, shows the way to overcome suffering and misery. You may say the Oriental I seem to be going backwards. Hang on. You may say that the Oriental religions are pessimistic, seeing everything as suffering. But the word in our language means ever-changing, constant flux. This is also the attitude of Christ. Ye shall have tribulation in the world, but I have overcome the world. So tribulation means suffering. Tribulation means woes and anxieties. From a practical standpoint, How can we remove this suffering and overcome all tribulations? What is the way to peace? Every religion has given us the means by which we can realize that infinite bliss in this very life. That is, if by religion we mean realization, experiencing the reality, the truth of God. But theoretical doctrines and dogmas or philosophical speculations are confusing. And by confusing, the Swami means they're ultimately unsatisfying. We can unravel them, we can intellectually understand them, but ultimately they are unsatisfying and therefore they confuse us. We should have, we've completely taken apart this magic bullet that we've been given by a philosopher, and we understand all the parts of the magic bullet, but somehow it does not give us what is our heart's greatest desire, which is freedom and happiness, real happiness. Why does God permit such suffering? I have no answer. This reminds me of an interesting incident. Two disciples of Ramakrishna, Swami Turiyananda, who was a great scholar, and Swami Adbhutananda, who was completely unlettered, were having a discussion. Swami Turiyananda was explaining the law of karma. Swami Adbhutananda listened with great interest, then asked his brother disciple, "Brother Hari, did the Lord appoint you as his lawyer, that you have to justify the Lord's conduct?" And both of them had a hearty laugh. Now, this was Adbhutananda's glory. By the way, Swami Sarvadevananda has recently published a book of Swami Adbhutananda's teachings. It's called Eternal Words, and you can find it at Vedanta.com if you'd like to read something of this wonderful Swami Adbhutananda. He was unlettered, but what that meant was his mind was not cluttered with any of these confusing doctrines and dogmas. He went right to the point. Brother Hari, speaking to Turiyananda, Brother Hari, did the Lord appoint you as his lawyer, that you have to justify the Lord's conduct? And both of them had a hearty laugh. You know, if you come to a holy man with your suffering, with a restless mind, not knowing where to find peace, does he give you a discourse? No. You sit in his presence and you find peace. I have seen that. And so has this, both with Swami Prabhavananda and Swami Swahananda and with others. I invite you to be in their presence as soon as it's possible again. So when it comes to the problem of evil, I would only say, who can tell the mysterious ways of God? Of course, I can point out philosophically and intellectually that what you call suffering and misery is really nothing, that there is no such thing. But that doesn't help you when you are suffering. We cannot deny any experience, no matter how much anybody can say it is not true. And we have to remember, if we remember it from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, people would come to him that were talking as great jnanis, and they would say, of course, all of this is not real. And in more than one instance, he gave them a severe pinch. I mean, a really strong pinch. And they would cry out, "Ow, ow, what are you doing?" And he'd say, "Oh, I thought you told me this was not real." So we cannot deny any experience, no matter how much anybody can say it is not true. When I am in a dream and experiencing happiness or suffering, no amount of argument at that moment will help. When I wake up, My heart may still palpitate for a while, even though I know the dream was not real. You see, there are degrees of reality. And this is something for us to keep firmly in mind. And this is why Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra says, replace the samskaras that you find in your mind with higher samskaras. Higher samskaras, higher samskaras, higher samskaras over time. And then as Sri Ramakrishna says, when you reach the roof and you find that the roof is made of brick, lime, and brick dust, you realize, oh, the stairs were also made of brick, lime, and brick dust. In other words, there is only one substance for reality. And we are simply replacing that which causes us more suffering with that which causes us less suffering, until we ultimately get to the point where we have no suffering. It is, we have overcome the world, the cessation of all suffering. And when we do, we can say, oh, well, all of that suffering was simply made of the substance of these lesser realities. So the Swami says, you see, there are degrees of reality. Then again, there is an experience which is not contradicted by any other experience, but which contradicts, but I'll start that again. Then again, there is an experience which is not contradicted by any other experience, but which contradicts all other experiences. In our wakeful consciousness, we experience so many things, but we wake up to the experience of the reality that is timeless, beyond space and relativity. That experience contradicts our waking experience. In it, there is neither good nor evil, neither happiness nor suffering. To quote from the Chandogya Upanishad, this infinite is the self. The self is below, above, behind, before, to the right, to the left. I am all this. This infinite is the Atman, the self, one who knows, meditates upon, and realizes the truth of the self. Such a one delights in the self, revels in the self, rejoices in the self. He becomes a master of himself and a master of all the worlds. Slaves are they who know not this truth. Now, it may seem like there's a condescension here. Slaves are they who know not this truth. No, it's just a recognition of a reality. As long as we are not in that state where we know the Atman, we are a slave to the gunas. To be in that state is called turiya, the fourth. It's above waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep, which are all the products of the gunas. Krishna explains this in detail in chapter 3 of the Gita. So, slaves are they who know not this truth. So we are caught in the wheel of karmas, both good and evil, and there is no escape as long as we are within ignorance. So to be enslaved is to be within ignorance. It's not something to accuse yourself for, to say, oh, I should not be a slave. No, this is the state of human beings until, as Sri Ramakrishna said, go enjoy the world, I have no objection. But when you are sick of it, return to me, I have the cure. To enjoy the world, no matter in what state, no matter how refined an enjoyment, is still to be within ignorance. The cure is what the Swami will talk about, the cure for the ignorance. The world will continue as it is, good and evil. You know, if there were no evil, there would also be no good. There is an interesting parable of Sri Ramakrishna. Sita and Rama were seated together, and Sita said, Rama, I went out into the city to see the conditions of the people, and I saw that there are houses that are dilapidated and poverty. All this must be removed. Now, this is the compassionate mother. This is the heart of the compassionate mother speaking on behalf of her children. So Rama had the city rebuilt. After some time, the masons and carpenters and plumbers came and complained, we have no jobs. So Rama told Sita, you see how it is. And this is samsara. This is the condition of human beings. So the best intentions are never going to do away with evil. Only the perfected intention of the spiritual aspirant will ultimately do away with both good and evil. The world will go on as it is. To expect a millennium is to expect the impossible. You know how people say, this is all going to end and there'll be a time of 1,000 years of perfection. Oftentimes fundamentalist Christians will talk this way, that Christ will come and there will be nothing but perfection. And the Swami is saying that is to expect the impossible. Individuals have to come out of the world. Each of us, individuals have to come out of the world. And there is a way out. As Buddha taught, there is suffering, there is a cause of suffering, there is a way out of suffering, and there is a way of peace. My master, by that Swami Prabhavananda means Swami Brahmananda or Raja Maharaj, the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. My master once told me, meditate, meditate, meditate. Find the mine of bliss. Then you will realize how people suffer for no reason, when in everyone there is that mine of bliss. So the Swami ends with the solution to this. And it is meditate, meditate, meditate. Each of the yogas, each of the 4 yogas, has its own way of meditation. The bhakta uses the instruments of the world, light, incense, flowers, water, the elements, in other words, in their various forms, and offers this with their love to the divine, concentrates on everything as being the divine in its glory and its manifestation. So that is the form of meditation of the bhakta. The active person, the karma yogi, meditates in a similar way, but there's a real big difference. There's nothing ritualistic about their offering. They simply offer everything, every action, every thought, every perception, the results of all actions. They are constantly reminding themselves, this is not mine, this is the Lord's. I offer it to them. And it's a moment to moment to moment to moment kind of meditation on this is not mine, this is the gunas doing, this is the gunas attaching themselves to gunas, as Krishna says in chapter 3 of the Gita. So this is the Lord's doing, all of it. And so that's not even a matter of seeing it as glorious, although one could, and many do, because it's easy to combine bhakta, of being a bhakta and being a karmi. But they don't need to. They don't even need to involve themselves in any of that at all. They can simply say, this is just the reality. And when I am free of all selfishness, when my meditation on the truth frees me of all selfishness, then I will not experience suffering. I will be free of the world. That's the karmi's way. The Raja Yogi, as you know, if you've studied Patanjali at all, there's a very prescribed way of going about it. It's a real workbook for completely stilling the activities of the mind. The stilling of the activities of the mind, the technical terms are no more vrittis in the chitta being the mind stuff, which is not just in the head or in the head and heart, it's throughout the body, stilling all vibration in the mind stuff. And then one realizes that one is something apart from all that. The yogis tend to use the word Atman. You are that Atman that is independent, Kaivalya. You are independent of any modification, the modification showing up as vibration. So this is the yogi's way of going about it. The Jnani has a yet a different way. It's very mental. And what it does is it says, first I hear the truth, Shravana. I hear it either directly from a teacher, that's the most powerful way. I hear it, but I can also read it in a book. I know someone personally who, Nisargadatta Maharaj, who of course has left the body some time back, Nisargadatta Maharaj is his guru. He has read everything he can find of Nisargadatta Maharaj. And so he is absorbed all of these truths as described by Nisargadatta. The next part of the Jnani's meditation is manana. You take all of these truths that you've learned and you begin to compare them one by one, or take them all together as a totality, and you compare them with how you actually think and therefore behave. And so you compare the truth with your own thinking and behavior. Over time, you become persuaded that the truth that you have heard from the teacher is superior to the truth that you have believed in and acted on, that which you were taught as a child and so on, that the truths of the spiritual path as taught by someone like Nisargadatta Maharaj or Ramana Maharshi or Swami Vivekananda, these truths are superior. So then you begin to modify your behavior because your thinking has now clarified. You begin to modify your behavior to reflect that. Now we enter the third phase of the Jnani's way of meditating, which is nididhyasana. You simply insist on the truth at every point. You insist, no, this is nothing I can experience or do is the highest truth. The highest truth is beyond all that. And so the behavior slowly and slowly and slowly narrows and narrows and narrows until there is virtually nothing left of a jnani's worldly life. They may participate in things, but they are doing so to speak, with their left hand only. And they're just, everything else is married to the truth. So these are the four ways that the four yogas teach us to meditate. Your own particular practice may combine, as Swami Vivekananda said, each soul is potentially divine. The goal of human life is to manifest that divinity. Do this by work, karma yoga, worship, bhakti yoga, psychic control, raja yoga, or philosophy, jnana yoga. So do this by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, one or more or all four of these, and be free. All else, and then he gives a long list of what he means by all else, temples, books, dogmas, all this. All else is but secondary details. So when the Swami says, meditate, 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 you have to find, either with the help of a guru, Swami Sarvadevananda is certainly able to help you. There are many other teachers, other gurus out there. They can help you narrow your focus by looking at you carefully. They can learn more about you in 15 minutes than you can possibly imagine. And they will be able to ascertain what is appropriate for you. The reason they're able to do that is because they see you. They see through the appearance that you have created to the reality of your being. And how they do this is why they are gurus. They have this great insight, this great intuitive capacity to understand who you are, and there's no way to quite explain it. But then, so a guru can help you focus if you wish the help of a guru. Otherwise, the thing for you to do is decide for yourself. Use your inner guide by doing whatever is necessary to bring your mind to calmness. And there are various practices for that, and you don't need a guru to learn those. We can discuss it here, or you can learn it on your own in books. It's better to discuss it with someone, because sometimes in talking things out, we come to see it as what we really think, what we really believe. But you can find a way. The answer is to do it in one way or the other, and not let the world keep us so preoccupied and distracted that we don't solve this problem of true freedom and true happiness. So we read through that talk of Swami Prabhavananda's relatively quickly. Now there's been some expounding by myself. And now comes the part where, please, we are a good-sized group here. We have the opportunity to do what is talked about in our opening prayer. Let us study together the art of spirituality. What about this appeals to you? What about it leaves you with a question? What would you like to say, ask, comment? Please, any one of you.
This is Haima.
Yes,
Hi,
Haima.
Brother Shankar. And I know you can't see me. I'm invisible today. I'm like God, right?
It's like Swami, it's like Sri Ramakrishna said of Mother. She does her business from behind a curtain.
That's
So
how I am
you're
today.
just behind the curtain today.
I tried to show my face, but I couldn't get it right. So I'll just leave it there for today.
All
But
right.
anyway, I have a comment when you said the so-called happiness is in suffering. I truly agree with that. My mother, when I was growing up, she used to say, if we don't have little sufferings every now and then, we will forget God. That's why we get these little sufferings. And I think she's right in so many forms. And Mother Teresa also said, through suffering, we get closer to God. I mean, that's not her exact words, but the meaning of her words was, through suffering, we get closer to God. And which I strongly believe, or these 69 years of my life, experiencing life through children.
Thank you, Haima. I think you're absolutely right.
Right.
Because the suffering interrupts our normal routines.
Yes.
It interrupts our normal way of distracting ourselves.
Yes.
We are built to distract ourselves. Our senses are naturally outreaching.
Yeah.
Not just outgoing, they're outreaching. They actually reach out for stimulus.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for us to remain distracted.
Yeah.
And so along comes something like what we're experiencing right now. This is why I chose this topic for today.
Yeah.
We are experiencing a dreadful time.
Yes.
With a great deal of suffering, and it is a transformation, and it has interrupted the routines of virtually everyone's life. By the way,
yeah.
Because we owe such a debt of gratitude to the medical profession right now, I have asked Dr. Bhagirath Majmudar to speak to us on April 19th about, so that we will be acquainted. He'll speak to us by Zoom, so that we'll be acquainted with, he knows from the inside, having spent a career in crisis medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, he worked at Grady, you know. He spent a career in, he understands in a way that virtually no one would understand what it is that the medical professionals are doing right now, and what their heroic efforts to save as many lives as they can. So on April 19th, we'll hear from Bhagirath on this. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Because we read about it in the news a little bit, but we really don't have any way of knowing just exactly what it's like. Bhagirath will tell us.
I have a friend who's an ICU nurse in New Orleans. So he's, eyeball deep in this right now.
Yes.
And when he contacts me, what he wants is a sense of normalcy.
Sure.
So he doesn't want me to pander to him, call him a hero, ask him sympathetically how everything he is. He wants me to behave like my normal self and have a normal conversation.
Well, sure, that's what he wants.
People are looking for from us, to as far as my friend goes, is that we behave normally and we don't spend all of our time fawning on them.
Well, no, of course not.
I'm not being insulting by what you said.
Bhagirath is not going to tell us how to fawn on them.
Of course.
He's going to explain to us so that we understand in a way that most of us cannot understand, because most of us don't have friends who are ICU nurses.
Yeah.
You have someone who's, as you say, eyeball deep in it. Most of us, I don't know anyone personally right now other than Nina Gazetta, who is, as you say, eyeball deep in this.
On April 19th, would it be the same time as this class?
April 19th, it'll be at 11 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
It'll be,
Zoom, the same ID, everything same.
well, it'll be the
It's a Sunday class.
Sunday
Sorry.
class. So you'll click on the
Okay,
Sunday,
it'll be Sunday lecture.
on
Okay,
the Sunday talk.
okay.
It's April 19th is a Sunday. It's the weekend after Easter,
Okay.
the Sunday after Easter. Thanks for asking. Yeah. But thank you, Justine. You're absolutely right. These people, if we do if I talked to Nina, she wouldn't want me to spend all the time praising her. She'd want to know what's going on here at the center. She'd want, as you say, she'd want some normalcy. That was a very astute observation, that's what your friend wants, not praise. But we can hold in our hearts praise and love and prayerfulness for these people. And I think it's best that we do it based on some knowledge.
Yeah, we talked about it for 5 minutes and then spent 20 minutes having a normal conversation.
Bless you for spending that time with him. I'm sure it meant the world to him.
He said that it cheered him up. So I guess my advice is, if you know anybody who's in the thick of it, maybe try and offer them a little normalcy on top of everything else. That's all.
Amen. Thank you. As I said, that was very astute. Anyone else? What about the problem of evil? What about the problem of dealing in your own life?
Well, the thought occurs to me that surely God is aware of the suffering this planet, everyone is undergoing, yet he's doing nothing to stop it. And that thought has occured to me.
Dear heart, who are those people who are the
You and me, dude.
Yeah, those medical professionals and so many other people, they are God. This is the thing for us to get out of our mind, this dualistic idea of God.
Exactly.
God is not over there.
Mm-hmm.
God is not sitting on a throne waving a wand. God is those medical professionals. And God is you and me who can send some money to some worthy organization. And God is you and me who can spend some time in each day in prayer for all of those who are suffering.
Yeah, I did pray at 3 o'clock yesterday, by the way. I ended a phone call to do it. So
Good.
yeah, I have listened to you there. But surely an omniscient, omnipotent God.
You are God too,
Mm-hmm.
Brad. You are God too. Yes, Haima.
Yes, I think when we are able to see the divinity within ourselves, then we can see the divinity in everywhere and every person in the world. Isn't that true, Brother Shankara?
Yes, but in the meantime, satyagraha.
Yes.
Let us insist on the truth. This is it's in this way that we triumph over ignorance, by insisting on the truth. Even if we don't yet know it, we take a stand for it. We take a stand for it.
Okay.
So yes, when we do have the experiences, as we can read, you've all heard me singing the praises of a book called Love Poems from God. It's the testimony of 12 saints about what they saw. And this way we can learn what to insist on. You know, this is so, but let us insist on the truth, as I just did with Brad. God is not over there.
That's right.
God is within each one of us. And this is the thing that's hard for us to understand, that God is in manifestation. God is not just good. God is also evil. As it says in the Chandi,
Yeah.
Devi, you are Brahma speaking to his mother, speaking to the goddess. Brahma says, you are the great Devi, as also the great Asuri. You are the great goddess as well as the great demoness. So mother or God has a terrible face as well as a sweet face in manifestation. And if you want to understand this in detail, read the lectures in Jnana Yoga, that the book Jnana Yoga that Swami Vivekananda delivered in London. He explains it in such exquisite detail, how there is no possibility of manifestation without there being both good and evil.
And additionally, I think as a follower of Shiva, one thing you learn from the Agori is, as you had said, is that God doesn't make a distinction. We separate these things into dualities, that the Agori will worship a flower as well as a pile of dung. God is in the suffering as well as is in the happiness. And that's the contract we make in living this life, is that there will be suffering. And part of the contract is that the karma is social karma. We have put ourselves in this situation, we're all in this together, and we've created a world where everybody's flying around back and forth, where we elect officials that are not prepared to handle this, that are incompetent, and we all have to suffer the social karma. I mean, it's grim, but the truth of it is, there is social karma involved in some of this.
Amen.
As we're all retreating, the oceans are recovering, the air is recovering. There are lessons to be learned, but they're being brutally taught. And I don't want to say this is coming from God, but I'm just saying that, God is in the suffering. God is inherent in the suffering.
Yes, as one of the Hopi elders once remarked, when the correction comes, you will be eating from a gourd of ash.
Hi, Brother Shankara. I just wanted to add one comment.
Yes, Aaron.
So, as you pointed out, fundamentalist Christians always talk about how Christ is going to return and set the world straight. But I think the problem with this philosophy is that Christ has already saved the world through his gospel, as well as God has saved the world through the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And it's because of us that we have this narrow view that the world has not already been saved.
Yes, it is our ignorance. It is our ignorance that keeps us distracted and unable to see clearly the truth that is in front of us. But it doesn't mean the truth is always pleasant. It's just we understand, as Justine just pointed out, that, and Hafiz also speaks of this great mystical poet and seer Hafiz, that that it is not just the flower but the pile of dung that is a truth and is sacred. So.
You want to find the good in this, Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers. They're God.
Yes.
Look for the helpers. That's Mr. Rogers.
Right. Thank you. Exactly. Someone else. Who else is out there that would like to say a word?
You say God knows the best, he's omniscient. So he knows ultimately, if you have to go through this crisis, he knows the longer scheme in life on this universe.
Oh, yes.
So it is by his design, whatever is happening now.
And well, his design, we are the hands and feet. We are the eyes and the ears. We are the ones who are, we are the creative impulse of God. We are the creative impulse of God. The human beings are that. And so what we're making this now and this in the next instant and that in the next instant and so on. Somebody wanted to say something and I saw them for a moment. And they,
I
yes.
have a question.
Yes.
Not a question, but really more of a statement. That the mystics of any religion, of any practice, are trying to do the same thing, which is to find God in themselves.
Yes.
And be one with God. But sometimes when certain people pick a certain ladder to get up to that point, they get attached to that ladder and they see the rest of it through the lens of that particular ladder. Is that, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, yes, of course. This is absolutely true. I mean, Nisargadatta did not speak for Ramana Maharshi, nor did Sri Ramakrishna speak for Vaishnavacharan, who was another great teacher of his time. They have their own formulation. As Holy Mother pointed out, even when the divine person itself takes human form, they are subject to all the limitations thereof. And one of the limitations of human beings is language. So they will speak in a specific way. If you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you see that Sri Ramakrishna, he may be unlimited, but in trying to communicate to human beings, his palette of language was not unlimited. So yes, they get attached to their particular ladder, but you can say that that's just functional. That's not timeless. They are beyond that, but they are stuck in time and space along with the rest of us, and so they speak in the way that they. And those who, no true saint is going to deny the truth spoken from some other saint elsewhere. They simply won't. They don't borrow. They speak from their own experience according to what palette of language they have available to them. This is why it's so grand to read that book, Love Poems from God. This is 12 saints from across the millennia, that some of them quite modern, some of them relatively ancient. I mean, there's Tukaram and there's Rabia. There's Hafiz and there's St. John of the Cross. These, but they all, within their own language, speak the same truth.
And within their own cultural context.
Yes.
So, what is the name of this book?
It's called Love Poems from God.
Okay.
Love Poems from God, and I highly recommend it.
Okay. Thank you very much, brother. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, anyone who's aligned in this direction, as we all are this morning, or we wouldn't be here, will greatly enjoy and benefit from this book. I can guarantee it.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Is this book by Vedanta Press?
No, it's by a man named. The translator's name is Landinsky, and I don't remember who the publisher is. But if you just go online, you'll find it immediately.
Love Forms of God.
Love Poems from God. Love Poems from God.
That's a beautiful title.
Isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
And you will see when you read the book that it's very well titled.
Yeah.
Because these people do not see themselves as anything more than channels. The eyes and ears and mouths and hands and feet of the divine.
Brother Shankara, I just wanted to share Ramakrishna's answer to people who wanted to understand the cause of suffering or the injustice, the inequality.
Yes, please, Vani.
So he said, you have come into the garden, instead of trying to count the leaves or the fruits or branches, try to understand the owner. He will then show everything to you. He will let you know everything that you want to know. I think as inquisitive people, we always want to know the workings of the world. We always want to know what the cause is behind. But I think as long as we are in this world, it might be beyond our comprehension. So maybe one way is to kind of try to understand God, try to reach him. And once you know the creator, you will know the creation at the end anyway.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Bonnie. Our minds are too limited, but there is an aspect of us that is beyond our minds. And Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, there are all these seeming contradictions and difficulties and paradoxes and so on. He said, come into the neighborhood of God. This was his expression, come into the neighborhood of God, and all these things will resolve themselves. And that comes through a sense of, and it's beyond a sense of, it is an overwhelming experience of unity. But it can't be put into words, otherwise Sri Ramakrishna would have put it into words himself. So
what do you think he means by the word the neighborhood of God in this context?
It means becoming to know, as Swami Prabhavananda put it, feel the living presence, come to know the living presence within your own heart. And that is the neighborhood of God. The subtle spiritual heart of your being is the neighborhood of God. And when it's like Christ said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. They shall know God. And this is what happens. We purify our hearts. We purify purifying our hearts is the same thing, same exact meaning as dispelling our ignorance. It doesn't mean becoming a good person. Yes, you'll become a good person, but that's incidental to the quest. As Swami Yatishwarananda said to Swami Yogeshananda, for every one step forward spiritually, you must take 2 steps forward morally and ethically. But it isn't like you're taking those 1-2 steps forward morally and ethically apart from the step forward spiritually. No, it all happens together. And as we purify our hearts, dispel our ignorance, then there's greater and greater clarity until there is, as we started this conversation today with the Swami talking about the words cessation of suffering. There's cessation of suffering, not because suffering doesn't continue to exist, it just doesn't affect us in the same way. So the neighborhood of God is your spiritual heart, which is accessed through whatever forms of contemplation, concentration, and meditation you practice.
So in meditation, if your goal is to do half an hour, but sometimes you just can't think of your mantra because your emotions are pulling you in every direction, or you're antsy, I just want to get this over with. What do you do?
Oh, Swami Prabhavananda said, don't go away from your mantra. He said, if necessary, go someplace where no one can hear you and shout it. Don't.
Okay, I can do that.
Just insist on the mantra. The mantra contains the spiritual treasure of the divine being.
No, I have found saying it out loud actually helps bring me back to it, but I was wondering if that was okay.
That is exactly it. And he said, even if you're in such an emotional state that even if just saying it out loud won't do it, go someplace where no one can hear you and shout it. That was his specific instruction. So don't abandon the mantra because it's difficult to access the mantra. We can always remember the mantra. Our emotions may make it difficult for us to focus on the mantra. So Swami Prabhavananda said, use any strategy necessary, any tactic necessary to bring the mantra into our awareness. Good question, Brad. Good question.
I'll shout it out to the world, man.
Yeah.
But they won't hear it.
Well, Christopher Isherwood said
Can't see me.
he would at one time he stood under a railroad trestle and waited till there was a train roaring overhead to shout it. Yes. Anybody else? Well, we certainly are not going to solve the problem of good and evil because there is no solution to it. As long as there is manifestation, there is good and evil. And as I say, if you want a detailed explanation, go to Swami Vivekananda's book, Jnana Yoga, and read the London lectures, and he explains it in great detail. He also explains it in a very different way in what is published as Inspired Talks. The talks that he gave in 1895 in Thousand Island Park after he'd had an experience of Savikalpa Samadhi. No, not Savikalpa, Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi.
Brother Shankara, there's one more question. We talked about mantras. Where can we find these mantras?
Well, there are many mantras. You and I can talk about that privately, if you like, about that. But if you want to take Diksha from Swami Sarvadevananda, he will give you a mantra that contains Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual treasure. This is what Diksha in our lineage is about. As Sri Ramakrishna sanctified the bijas, these seed words that are full of spiritual power to begin with. He sanctified them by his own use of them and by pronouncing them in a special way, and passed them along through apostolic succession through the Swamis of the Ramakrishna order. So you can take Diksha from Swami Sarvadevananda. You can do it either by flying out to California and not waiting for him to come here, in other words, which he probably won't do until at least the fall now. But you can fly out there and take Diksha from him. You work with him. He'll select an auspicious day, and you can fly out there and he will give you Diksha. Otherwise, if you aren't willing to go that far yet, you and I can talk about devising your own mantra. I actually teach a class on that. It's called the blissful practice of mantra meditation, and it is about how to create your own mantra if you don't want to take initiation from some particular lineage, if that's your.
Is this class going on now? Or?
No, it's something that you and I could do privately. I can give you the essence of it in an hour or two if you wanted to. We can either talk via Zoom or that's probably the best thing. We can just arrange a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Just email me about it.
Okay, sure. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Sure. And mantras contain the ancient spiritual treasure. For example, there is a Christian mantra, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Now, we don't normally think about it in these terms in the West, but that mantra contains two bijas, two seed words. One is Christ, which the Greek is Christos, and mercy. Mercy is a huge bija. We use mercy so carelessly in the way we normally speak. Mercy means all of the generous and loving attributes of God. And if you just repeat that mantra for 30 minutes, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, you will have, first of all, a very different understanding of the word Christ and a very different understanding by the end of that 30 minutes of the word mercy. I guarantee it. You do it at the heart. Don't say it in the mind, say it at the heart. But then, that's just the beginning of the idea of mantra.
Okay. Well, thanks. Thank you very much again. Yeah.
You bet. Anybody else? Anybody there that has anything else to say? It's now, we've reached noon.
Brother Shankara, is mercy and grace about the same thing?
No.
Okay.
Grace gestures toward mercy. Mercy is a much bigger word than grace. In English. The word for grace in Sanskrit is more equivalent to the word mercy in English.
Okay, thank you.
I have a thing here from Rumi that might be of help. Ordeal. The time of testing is here. Words like fortitude and valor mean something among people again. Old agreements weaken and break. When the knife reaches bone, your life must change. The knife has reached the bone.
Beautiful. You can always count on Rumi.
Rumi.
You can always count on Rumi. Rumi is one of the ones who's in that 12, one of the 12 in that Love Poems from God. Thank you, Justine. Anybody else? Anything? All right, dears. We'll wind it up this way. Om Sato Ma Satkamaya. tamaso ma jyotir mrityorma amritangamaya abir moiti. O dearly beloved, lead us from thy lesser truth to thy highest truth. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, light us through and through with thy everlasting shining presence. And Justine, I didn't hear your squeaky chair squeak once.
Well, that's good. I aim for a squeakless session.
All right, dears. Is there anything else before we close? Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Brother
Shankara.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
is that David?
Yep.
Oh, hello there, David. So good to see you.
To be here. Thank you.
You betcha. That's David Keyes from Athens, for those of you who saw his face briefly. All right, y'all.
Okay.
Until next time, there's a talk tomorrow at 11.
Okay.
It's the final talk on this series about Don Juan Matus and his teachings to his apprentice Carlos Castaneda. And the title of the talk is Stopping the World and the Journey to Ishtlan. Stopping the world is the cessation of suffering. And Journey to Ishtlan is what happens to you after you have learned to stop the world. So that's what tomorrow at 11 is about. Hope to see you then.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Bye.
Bye-bye, y'all.